What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. We actually have some news. The Mets made a move on the bullpen side. AJ Minter coming from the Atlanta Braves to the New York Mets. Tanner Scott signs a big deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. We got more Pete Alonso news, not in the good way. Seems like it's quite a falling out that the Mets might be having here with Pete Alonso. Not looking great. We will talk about everything there, as well as are the Dodgers ruining Major League Baseball. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel, Mets'd Podcast. If you're liking what you're listening to over here, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download and subscribe. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media. TikTok's back, Instagram, Twitter. It's not gone. Follow us everywhere. Do appreciate it. And also, shout out my Commanders. Moving on to the NFC Championship game. Absolutely love it. James, how we feeling? AJ Minter, let's talk about him first. Kind of came a little bit out of nowhere. A name that we weirdly talked about in the Friday episode that dropped late. We mentioned a little bit of AJ Minter. He ended up signing minutes after we put that video live on YouTube. 2 years, $22 million with an opt-out after the first year. What was your initial thoughts?
Initial thought was just like super fine. When we went through some of our bullpen stuff in the last few weeks, he was a guy that both of us circled. I was like, this could be an option. He's a lefty. We need a lefty. He's just good. We need a good reliever. We don't think he'll be that expensive. And I think it's cool that we're able to talk about this in full context on Sunday now after the Tanner Scott deal with the Dodgers has come out, because Tanner Scott signed for 4 years with no opt-out and for $18 million a year. And I think it's hard to separate my mind and look at everything in certain bubbles and certain deals. Like, I think both deals in their own bubble are like, both of them, like almost any reliever that has a multi-year deal, you're like, a little bit of risk there. But just the fact that Tanner Scott's getting 4 years and $18 million a year, like that's the same contract almost that we gave Starling Marte a few years ago to play every single day. So it's just like, I like the AJ Minter contract a lot more in that context, while also understanding that Tanner Scott is significantly better than AJ Minter.
Yes.
And he probably will be, but I also think there weirdly is more risk on Scott's side than Minter's side. Not even just the fact that it's a 4-year deal, but also in the fact of if there could be any kind of like variance in his own game.
Yeah, and I get it why the Dodgers did it, because, I mean, he's one of the pieces that, why not? We're already spending $400 million this year on payroll, and he could be a piece that, like, they need bullpen help. If you look at that roster, where do they need help? It's in the bullpen. They now solidify it. They get a nasty left-handed reliever because they've been rocking with Anthony Banda basically all of last year, and Alex Vesia getting their big left-handed outs. Tanner Scott's really good. But, yeah, I'm happy the Mets were not in on 4 years and $72 million on Tanner Scott. That's not money I want this organization spending on relief pitching. I did think $11 million a year was a little high, actually, for Minter. I didn't think he was going to come in there. I thought he was going to be under 10, but I guess it also doesn't really matter at that point when it's a short-term contract like that.
Yeah, and there's two parts of Minter, too, because it's like there's one, there's a body of work, and two, there's things that he does really well on the mound right now, while also having done some things worse recently. The one thing that stuck out to me and gave me some worry about Minter, and I tweeted this down on Friday as this was going on, is that the last few years his velocity has dropped a good bit each season. And with his velocity dropping, his strikeout rate and his whiff rate are both dropping. In 2022, he was sitting 96, 97. He had 35% strikeout rate. He was one of the best relievers in baseball, and he tormented the Mets that season. 2023, the velocity dropped a little bit, but was still within the same band. He still sat 96, got to 97, got more 95s, but the strikeout rate dropped some, but it was still over 30%. And last year, his fastball velocity dropped under 95 average mile an hour. And when he went on the IL, a season ended with a hip injury that he got surgery for. His last couple of outings, he was averaging about 93 miles an hour before that hip happened. And his strikeout rate in the year dropped all the way down to 26%, the worst since he's broken out, become a good reliever. So I think that's a worthwhile reason for concern with Minter. I think that last year's strikeout rate and fastball velocity are why some of the projection systems don't love Minter. They kind of have him pegged for like a 3.5, 3.6 ERA kind of guy. And I think that probably is what he is at this point, unless he does get back up to that. Yeah, but again, that's still fine. And for this money, for a good lefty, it's not crazy considering the market. But then there's also like, I don't know, there's one chance that he's healthy and the velocity does jump back up. Then one suddenly you're like, oh, this could be a nasty reliever again. The other thing about Minter that I like a lot, which I'm not saying I like him more than Scott in this way, but this is something he does better than Scott. Also, he has to do better than Scott because Scott has a ridiculous fastball and a ridiculous slider. He doesn't really need a third pitch, but Minter, when that fastball velocity started dropping, he became a primary cutter guy. His cutter is a really good pitch and someone that can get hitters out on both sides of the plate and do some soft contact. So I do think that there's a world where if that fastball doesn't snap back to everything it could have ever been, Minter just becomes a cutter first guy. And he still has a changeup that he works off to righties as well. But even with that fastball velocity not coming back, he still has good fastball shape. And he still maintained that through the year too, even as the hip was presumably bothering him and the velocity was dropping, the strikeout rate was dropping. So there's just ways for Minter to get around things getting worse. And it's only a 2-year deal. So again, he makes his bullpen better and instantly. But I also don't want to give tons of credit for penny pinching because the Dodgers they still got a better player.
Yeah, no, 100% they got a better player. We're not going to, wave the flag and sign for victory here because we got AJ Minter over Tanner Scott. But when you look at the years, again, I can't give Tanner Scott, I can't give really any relievers 4 years. It's absolutely insane. I think that hip is going to, after the surgery, I would assume that's going to help with the velocity as long as he's healthy through spring training. David Peterson, right? Hip thing as well. The velocity started to come back after the surgery too. We know that this is something that could have had an impact. And again, that cutter, one of the things that he was great about last year, right-handed hitters couldn't touch him either. So he's not just a get left-handed hitters out guy. He can get both sides out, which is really big because, again, a lot of the teams that we do face, Phillies are the ones that have, I feel like, the most left-handed hitters. But when you look at the Braves and you look at some of those other teams, they kind of like sprinkle them in with right-handed batters, where the Phillies, I feel like, have more like Schwarber, Harper guys.
Yeah, and last year Minter with that color, he was throwing that pitch most often to lefties. Like that was his primary pitch against lefties. Whereas the righties, it was still more fastballs, but then some colors, and then it was a lot more changeups, which is something that he's good with the righty. So again, like he's a good pitcher. And also the Tanner Scott thing, the way that it's kind of unfolded in the media now in the last few hours, just the way that I think people don't. I don't know. I think people respect Tanner Scott too much.
Way too much.
I like Tanner Scott. I think Tanner Scott's a tremendous reliever. But if you go back 2 years ago, Tanner Scott had almost 7 walks per 9 innings, a 16% walk rate, and a 1.6 whip. And that was 2 years ago. That was coming off a season where he got, I don't know if he got let go by the Orioles, but the Orioles just chose not to keep him or whatever. It might have been a non-tendering situation. He was someone who was like always this, like, let's hope we can unlock this guy. Let's hope we can unlock this guy. This stuff is crazy, but the command is horrific. And he did get out of that the last 2 years. The command is a lot better. The command regressed, the walk rate at least regressed a little bit in 2024.
His trade is super funny. So he was traded to the Marlins for one of your favorite sabermetrics boys, Cole Sulser.
Oh, nice. There you go. Wow. So a win-win trade for the Marlins there from the Orioles. But it's just he's not, I don't know. I don't think he's as impenetrable of reliever as a profile as people are making him out to be. He's done really well the last 2 years in his contact suppression. I think also the Dodgers, one of the things, I mean, I'm sure this doesn't actually happen, but the fact that he massacred Shohei Ohtani last year after being traded to the Padres, they're like, we can't let this guy face Shohei ever again. He's coming on our team now. But again, while he's tremendous, just a 4-year deal for a reliever like that, becoming one of the highest paid relievers in the league. Like that contract was really similar to the Raisel Iglesias contract from years ago, right before the Angels panicked not to unload him once they realized they couldn't pay it. But again, like I don't know. For 4 years at the time, I think Iglesias was probably a little bit better than Scott, but he was also much safer because he had multiple pitches, he had a lower walk rate. Like there's more risk in this Scott profile, I think, than people are giving it credit for.
Well, I think the thing that's bothering me the most right now is the conversation about like the Dodgers breaking baseball and it's unfair. Like the whining right now is out of control about what the Dodgers are doing. Every team can go and sign players. They're choosing not to. Like I think it's the Padres, the Cardinals, the Twins, the Brewers, and I think there's one more team, have not given out a major league contract this entire offseason. Like there are teams that are choosing to not get better through free agency. That is the bigger issue here. Not the Dodgers spending as much money as they want. Like the salary cap talk that always comes up drives me nuts, especially as a Mets fan now. I really don't want a salary cap, but it's not a sport that needs it. It's also still baseball. Like at the end of the day, the Dodgers could have the super team again, and they can lose. Like they still lose 40% of the games they played last year. So I feel like the conversation, it's not like football where you watch a team go 16-1. They lose one of their 20 games they play in a season. Baseball, you still lose 40% of the time. It's not as lopsided, I feel like, as people are making it. Like the Dodgers are the clear and best team, but the fact that it's like being treated as it's unfair and they're not going to be beatable at all is absolutely ridiculous and annoying to hear.
Yes and no. I do think that what the Dodgers are doing are pushing past like the old trope of like, oh, all these teams should be trying to spend money. Like the only team that really think should have been in on this Tanner Scott thing and push the Dodgers were the Chicago Cubs. We've talked about the fact that the Cubs just they're
I mean, like the Diamondbacks should be in on it. Why not? Like,
I guess Diamondbacks have spent a lot of money this offseason. They truthfully just don't have very much money. But the Cubs are a team that made like a lateral move financially in terms of trading for Kyle Tucker, adding one of the best hitters in baseball to their roster.
Well, did you hear what their owner said?
What?
The owner at Cubs Fest said that the goal every single season is to break even. That's his goal every single year. He said that at Cubs Fest. It's crazy.
Which is, again, like he's like one of the richest owners in baseball, and one of the biggest markets in baseball, and he's willing to just let the Dodgers do this. Especially also the story that came out Friday night, where not the story, but the news that
the Phillies
late night traded at the 11th hour some international slot money to the Dodgers for Sasaki, and they got putting themselves directly in the executive cuck chair. But I do think right now what the Dodgers are doing are blowing past like even what other teams like can or whatever do. Like $375 million payroll is insane. The fact that their 5 best starting pitchers right now, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is the only one who actually was able to throw a pitch last year in the postseason between Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Gonsolin, and rookie Sasaki. He was the only one that actually was in those series. Like that part of it is pretty insane too. And then the fact that now his bullpen, like they also have Vesia and Tanner Scott, so they might have the 2 best left-handed fastballs in baseball in their bullpen, which is pretty obscene and ridiculous. But like they are still really good. They got so much better. They can be beat. But I think it is getting to an extreme point. But I also don't think that's because of the deferrals. And that's what everyone's pretending.
Well, yeah. I mean, I saw some idiot on Twitter the other day talk about how deferrals were going to cause a lockout in the next CBA. I don't think people realize, one, the deferrals, the owners love deferrals. All the owners can do it. That's the best. It's very anti-player to do deferrals. And the players seem to be okay with it as well. Deferrals do not matter. No one cares about the deferral stuff. Every team can do it.
There's also just some insight to deferrals as well. Like the way people are like, oh, the Dodgers don't even have to pay this money. That's how we can afford to pay everything else right now. And there's 2 sides to that. Part of it's true, part of it's not true. They have to fund the deferral annuity like immediately. Like you have to have that ready to go by the season where that payment's supposed to be due. But then what they can do, and I'm sure they do this, I'm sure the Mets do this ad nauseum too. The 2 teams that come from the Wall Street money, but you can invest that money over the course of the term of the deferral. So like you can put like a 10-year, like they're investing all that Shohei Ohtani money right now. They're making that money back at the same time that the dollar value actually decreases, at the same time that they're trying to get out of Shohei paying the taxes for leaving California by the time he actually has to get paid. So it's all these games going on behind the scenes, and all that stuff's a lot of fun, but it's not, I don't think that's tormenting the game the way some people are claiming it is. Because also the fact that, again, you have to fund that annuity up front, then you can reinvest it. So sure, it lightens the load of that contract, but it still affects the competitive balance tax. And it's the fact that the Dodgers are just more willing than any other team to pay those massive tax rates down. I think a big reason for that, people forget this. Remember 2 years ago when the Dodgers kind of punted the season, 2023? Yeah. The Dodgers fully punted the 2023 season. They still won 100 games. They still made the playoffs, won the division. It was pretty insane. But like I was going through Baseball Reference before looking at that team.
Got smoked by the Diamondbacks in the playoffs.
Murdered by that. Jason Hayward, David Peralta, and Miguel Rojas combined for over 1,000 plate appearances on that team.
Way too many. It's way too many.
Clayton Kershaw led them in innings pitched.
What?
100th of the innings.
That's insane. I actually didn't know that.
They only had 4 guys in the entire roster throw more than 100 innings. And it was Kershaw, Bobby Miller, Julio Urias, and Tony Gonsolin.
That's crazy. Also, I love seeing Tony Gonsolin throw into all these pitching graphics that are being made. They're like naming all the guys. They're like, and Tony Gonsolin too. Yeah. It's like, okay. I mean...
And also the craziest thing about that year with the Dodgers, like the fact that they punted that year, it was the year that they had to watch Corey Seager, their homegrown star, when they didn't have a fucking shortstop. They had to make Mookie Betts play shortstop, win the World Series MVP in resounding fashion with the Texas Rangers. That was 2 years ago. The Dodgers had to watch that. They kind of punted. They got blown out by the Diamondbacks in the postseason. Then their homegrown star won the World Series MVP. They only paid a $19 million tax bill, and then they got Shohei Ohtani, and since then they've gone fully fucking nuclear. Yeah. They're going to have like almost $200 million tax bill this year.
You know, it's going to be insane. But also the Shohei Ohtani money, just with Japan alone. Yeah. We saw how much money they made from last year. I think they were, by and large, the most profitable team of the numbers that we do have. None of this matters, especially if they continue to win like they have. It will not make a difference. What's also funny, too, and I mean, Buster Olney said it as well, one of the big differences, too, with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Can't forget Jackie Robinson. That was an insane tweet. That was like so disrespectful. It felt like to Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, I have the tweet for you right here. It's from Buster Olney. And this was on Saturday morning at 10:37 a.m. He just had this ready to go. The Dodgers have a lot of money, will always be in a strong position to bid for players. But they also have an excellent culture that players love. It's a group that has a lot of fun together and a lot of success. All that's totally true. If the tweet ended right there, would have been a perfectly fine tweet. We could have walked right past that tweet. Nothing would have happened. And then Buster Olney continues. And they have the Jackie Robinson history and resulting tradition no other franchise can match. What on earth are you talking about, Buster Olney? And they're also, but the thing is that it's funny. There is like a modicum of truth in that, where the Dodgers have paved the way for a lot of like players of different ethnicities to get their shot. Yeah. Jackie Robinson, 100%. First player to break the color barrier. Branch Rickey, Walter O'Malley, Brooklyn Dodgers. Fernando Valenzuela, as the Dodgers needed to recoup some Latin American fans after their stadium had, displaced a lot of Mexicans in the Los Angeles region. And then these Latin, like Hideo Nomo with Japan, Hyunjin Ryu with Korea. Like they have been on the forefront of acquiring players who came from different cultures and different countries. But to say that Jackie Robinson's affected the Roki Sasaki decision is completely fucking brain dead and egregious for Buster Olney there. That was a classic media marvel. It's been a while.
Yeah, so that's been a while that I've done a media marvel. It was really grasping at straws on that one. That was absolutely insane. Like, Jackie Robinson had a huge impact. I don't think it had anything to do with Roki Sasaki signing.
And again, there's so much discourse right now about the Dodgers ruining baseball and all this stuff. Like 2 years ago, I mentioned it before. Like, saw the 84 win Diamondbacks and 90 win Rangers playing the World Series.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a lot of shit can happen. This team is nasty on
Mets,
paper. It's incredible.
I know we lost last year, but like we made the NLCS. Like that was not a team that anyone thought was going to make the NLCS at the beginning of the year. So like it's a little bit of a tired conversation at times where everyone gets so like, and maybe it's because there's nothing going on in baseball right now. Like the offseason is still relatively quiet. Maybe people are just bored and it's time to complain about the Dodgers. I'm here for anti-Dodger stuff. I'm all about it. Hate the Dodgers all you want. I'm cool with it. I'm about it. But like the whining, I can't stand to see the whining, especially from like people in the baseball world. That's the worst part of it.
Especially because we've seen this movie before. I'll reiterate, this Dodgers team is better than any baseball team on paper that we've seen in our lives.
Yeah, I mean, like outside of when the Yankees had like Murderers Row and there were 6 teams in Major League Baseball, this is probably the best roster that's ever existed.
But it's still just baseball. Like there's so much stupid variance. Like in a 5-game series, like something horrible could happen to this team easily. Like it could be like you never know what's gonna happen.
Mookie Betts has gotten cold before. Like guys could just get cold and they lose. That happens. Like they are going to make the playoffs. They're going to steamroll 100%. But once you get there, it really is a crapshoot sometimes.
Regular season, they're gonna completely murder people. But also like this pitching rotation, like every single guy in this rotation has like a major health grade. Yeah. And then also you look at the lineup again. Like this is the classic LeBron tweet. LeBron's finally turning 30. This fuckery can't go on much longer. Like Freddie Freeman's 35. I don't know. At what point does he slow down a little bit? Like something has to change eventually here. Like Teoscar's 32. Muncie's 34. Betts is 32. Shohei's over 30. Mike Conforto's in the starting lineup for this team. It's just like
he's gonna hit 30 homers. That guy. It's crazy.
Yeah. It is just funny how they've like assembled this team and assembled this complete onslaught of talent, but it's just to say that like it's ruining baseball. Like I don't know. I feel like again, this is extreme right now, but there should still be some embarrassment from a lot of these teams in the middle. They're just not jumping in.
Major.
Like the Yankees right now have such a golden opportunity in a piss poor American league to spend like 25-30 million extra dollars and like completely be able to dominate their league. The Red Sox are still not really spending any money in the middle class when they're trying to catch a Yankees team that's kind of like
the Red Sox sign Alex Bregman, that is legitimately, I think, the favorite in the American League to win it. If they can get like a guy like Alex Bregman, just simply because like the stuff is so weak. I like what they've done in terms of like their additions to pitching and stuff. And they like, what if Trevor Story has a healthy year? Like they have a lot of fun what ifs. The Red Sox. That's a fun little team right now.
They have a weird like crowd infield though. It's a kind of crowd for no reason. But also again, like a team like the Cubs, like you might have 1 year of Kyle Tucker. Why aren't you just pushing in? The Tanner Scott contract again objectively is bad. I think if like the Cubs or someone else signed Tanner Scott, the rhetoric that would have gone around the internet was like, oh my god, with a horrible
overpaid
contract, losers, stupid organization. But the fact that it was the Dodgers then becomes Dodgers ruining baseball. How can we let this happen? It's so different. But like those teams in the middle, it's like, why aren't you actually trying to do this? The Atlanta Braves, we talked about the other day. Yeah. The bottom of the Braves roster
shockingly
is
bad.
So insane. They haven't made a move in what, like 4 months?
I think Brian De La Cruz was their big move this offseason so far, right? Am I forgetting somebody?
They traded Soler away. That was a big move. And
got that. Yeah, they shed money and they haven't spent it.
No, and then they still last year they have Sale. They're gonna have Strider back there and Acuna back. But like if you look right now, the Braves roster, like they're going to be starting Brian De La Cruz, Jared Kelenic, Orlando Arcia. Like those are going to be 3 guys in the lineup every single day. And their bench is guys like Luke Williams, Nick Allen, Eli White, Nacho Alvarez. Like it's not exactly they have guys ready to go step up and get in there. Like right now, Grant Holmes is going to be in the opening day rotation probably. Possibly Ian Anderson might, yeah. It's just like this team right now is not. I don't know. Like they're a team that they probably still top to bottom of the second best roster in baseball. And they're not pushing any chips in whatsoever. They're just kind of like stopping. And an offseason where they've lost multiple relievers, one to their division rival, the Mets, and Joe Jimenez is gone too. Like I understand, similar to all the conversations we had with him and Diaz, like not trying to be a hypocrite. Like we don't want to pay 2 relievers upwards of $18 million, and they're paying Rafael Iglesias something like that. But I don't want the Braves to be better, but it's crazy that they're not kicking the tires and some of these relievers that are out there right now. Their bullpen's taken a massive hit.
It's bizarre. I mean, even the Phillies bullpen's taken a massive hit, and they really haven't found a way to really fill in any of those pieces either. Like this has been such a weird offseason where it's been the Mets, Yankees, and Dodgers, and it seems like everybody else is just kind of filling in the cracks, which are not really even doing it that well.
In FanDuel's last the update of the Major League over-unders, the win totals, the Mariners, who have truthfully one of the best rotations we're ever going to see in our lives on paper, and they have a 79 win total project on Fangraphs. I mean, on FanDuel.
Wait, really?
Yeah, 79 and a half.
I'm going to smash the over on that. Absolute smash. I know their infield is like basically a minor league team, but that pitching alone is going to, and the American League stinks. The only thing that is worrying is that the Rangers might sneaky be the best team in the American League. So
yeah, by a lot. But again, it's just like it's so weird how a lot of these teams in the middle are just kind of willing to stand pat. Like again, like
and then the A's are spending. Forgot about them too. They've spent money.
Well, they were told to spend. They said if you guys don't spend, you might not go to Las Vegas. So you better fucking spend. But like I understand, like the Mets, the Dodgers, the Yankees, we play in a different world than the rest of the teams in baseball. The Phillies, I guess, are in that category as well. But it is there definitely is something to be said about these teams that are stuck in the middle. That are not willing to take any risks, and sometimes some risks are stupid for sure. Like Tanner Scott might not be the Blue Jays. Blue Jays willing to take any risk possible. The Blue Jays took on $13 million in Miles Straw's salary just to pretend for an extra couple of hours and a chance to get Roki Sasaki,
Andres Jimenez for no reason. Like it was. They bailed Cleveland out of some bad contracts.
Yeah, and Jared Seidler sliced the Blue Jays up so bad. People are like, he really should have considered the Blue Jays. He goes on Twitter, Jared's Baseball Prospectus. The Blue Jays haven't had a 95-win season in over 30 years. They haven't made it out of the wild card round since 2016. They've one of baseball's worst farm system, and half the team's going to hit free agency next offseason. Is this where you'd want to go as a 23-year-old days? Fuck no, it's not where you'd want to go as a 23-year-old days. So it's like, it's again, like they kind of, I guess, diluted themselves in trading for that extra bonus pool money at the end of the night. They've taken on almost $100 million in Cleveland Guardian salary this offseason. I know the Dolans are taking that right to the bank, but it's so crazy to me how, again, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, they probably should be vilified. The Dodgers more so because they're willing to do different things than the Mets. But there's a middle tier of teams that have ample money. They're just not spending. And that's like, it's because everyone's just trying to win 85 games to just reach the playoffs.
Yeah, which could be the problem with the extended wild card. This is your magnum opus.
These are all my takes.
Right here.
these are all my fucking takes coming back to earth. And then we're going to kill divisions. We're going to have no more rivalries. And we're just going to wait until the Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets play each other every single year, like the stupid NBA. But I don't know. I digress. I think we killed it enough. I guess. I mean, I don't know, 2 more minutes on Minter. I guess he's a good pitcher. Like I think that's how we started this, which is kind of funny.
20 minutes in.
Let's let that velocity come back. And he's a good lefty reliever. And he probably slots in right now as the third best reliever, like right in between Dedniel and Reed Garrett. And then
totally.
You probably think there is room because the Mets are at $295-ish million. Like I think they're going to go over the 301. They're so close to it as is. They might still need 2 more players. So you get one more major league reliever. I think this bullpen's kind of cooking.
Yeah, I think it's shaping up to be really good. Trusting David Stearns, got to do it. Always trust him. That being said, we did get some more Pete Alonso news after we recorded our last episode. Will Salmon amended his report late at night, saying that the Mets actually offered opt-outs on that 3-year, $70 million contract, and were willing to go slightly higher. I mean, what is going on here? Is this a Pete problem? Is this an ego problem? Is this a Boris problem? None of it makes any sense. He was going to be making more money than Matt Olson on that deal already at the 3 for $70. Felt extremely fair with opt-outs. Insane he didn't take that, honestly.
Yeah, it seemed like such a win-win deal, but I just think this is the Boris thing where he's not signing deals for these guys in the middle of January. And I think that was the game that Stearns was trying to play, where it's like, we can't do this March thing. There's too much at stake. This team has too much right. This is too good of a baseball team right now to play this game into March. So we're giving you a deal that we think is fair, that we think is even slightly above market value, that gives you the opportunity to stay here for 3 years if you want to, or gives you the opportunity to be a free agent next year, the year after if you want to as well.
The opt-out after next year is so phony, though, because Vlad Jr. is going to be a free agent. Pete can't compete with him. Like that, he's going to be stuck in the same thing he is this year. So that one's like kind of fake. But if he goes nuclear, he would still get a better contract still. He just wouldn't be getting the money that he thought he was going to get this offseason, which he's still not.
It's not even about that. It's about the qualifying offer being attached to him. If you can be a free agent, even if it's next year in a market with Vlad Jr., and he doesn't have a qualifying offer
attached to him. That's a good point, yeah.
He's still a 40 home run guy you don't have to give up a draft pick for. Like, that's still something that's super valuable contextually with everything else. Like, we're seeing how much different, how much more difficult it is for these guys to qualifying offer to get these deals. Like, I don't know. There's literally no buzz in Anthony Santander in any direction. It's completely quiet. At least Pete has a minor market of the Mets, but otherwise it's just like there's nothing really going on there. And it's a funny situation. There was also some weird thing happened. Another media marvel throw in here late. Joe Beningo hopped back on the sticks in WFAN this week.
Whoa.
And he went off on Stearns, saying that Stearns he's undermining Mets fans. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room.
He is.
He's like, because he went to Harvard, it's like that usually helps.
That helps a lot.
It's ridiculous that he's lowballing Pete Alonso and doing this to him, where it's like, this isn't, I don't know.
Lowball.
I feel like the way all these reports came out, like I said before, I'll say it again, it seems like a lot of mudslinging on both sides at this point,
Yes.
where everyone's kind of throwing some misinformation. Like, we still don't know exactly if that 3 for 70 with the opt-outs was true. The way it came out, it does seem like it definitely was true, and I trust Will. He's a tremendous reporter, but the fact that it's just like the continuous mouthpieces of Heyman, Sherman, like over and over again, like nonstop, we're putting these reports
Martino.
out.
We know Martino's the Mets mouthpiece, and we know that Sherman and Heyman are Boris's. So
it's just like, it's literally combat back and forth nonstop about who's going to like sway the court of public opinion more. And it just seems to me like Pete Alonso probably got a fair offer, and Scott Boras is like, we're waiting.
I mean, we might look back at this as one of the biggest botches in free agency ever if Pete is continuing on the path. Yeah.
Yeah, his bag fumbling is already generational, considering he turned down a 7-year, $155 million deal last year, 2 years ago, whatever that was.
Crazy, he turned that down.
It's also so funny to see the differences in the way that Mets fans are approaching this. Like, shout out to all of you guys in our comments. Like, it's
divisive.
It's one of the most divisive things that's happening. So it's like there's a lot of people, like always, that are going to be like really hard on both sides. Where the one side is like, you have to keep Pete, generational great. It's embarrassing what's going on. The other half is like pissed off at Pete because I think he's turning down like legitimately fair offers. Where it's like, you're not worth what you thought you were worth. Like,
what do you want, dude?
Yeah, it's like but then like I think some people are again vilifying Pete, which I think isn't super fair because again, like I said, like if you're an athlete, like get your bag, do what you got to do. But you have to be reasonable with yourself in the market. Like, you can't pretend something exists that isn't really there.
This is getting his bag. 3 for 70 would be getting his bag because he's going to be paid like the third best first baseman in baseball, which he's not.
Yeah, and I still will not believe Pete's not a Met until he's not a Met. Until he signs on the dotted line somewhere else, I'm still maybe again I'm delusional, but I don't want to admit this and come to terms with this yet and get emotional yet. But I just still think that as long as he's not on another team, he's a good chance he's still a Met.
If he's not taking 3 for 70 with opt-outs from the Mets, who is he getting a contract from? Who is giving him anything better than that? And if he wants, like, if he ever becomes cheap enough where other teams could be interested, like the Mariners or Pirates, like, what are they going to do? The Mets will just give him a better contract.
I was just brain blasted too.
You did just brain blast. That was crazy.
Theoretically, pulling this offer off the table by the Mets also kind of maintains their own leverage, because if it's public that the Mets have a standing 3-year offer out there for Pete and he can sign whenever he wants, then him and Boris know, all right, someone gives us a 4th year, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
But if this offer's not on the table, there's no reason for any team to actually give him a 4th year at this point.
Of course not. No.
All right, so that's another great move by Stearns, being like, yep, we're moving on. Watch us move on. You see, we're publicly moving on. This deal's not on the table. Watch us sign these 2 guys. Jesse Winker, AJ Minter. We've given out the $20 million already. So, like, maybe that is another play at this where you could just keep waiting this game. And if you know you can do your back channels and, like, you know that they still don't have a market, it probably still leaves this door cracked open.
Pete Alonso a Met. I got to ask you before. Is Pete Alonso a Met by opening day? Yes or no?
I still think yes. I'm delusional. Wow. I still think yes, which is crazy.
I'm for the first time on the side of I don't think so. I think it's over. It's getting ugly, and I don't think it's going to end well.
I mean, but again, the point prevails that there's no other market.
That's the one thing.
Until the other market comes up, like I don't know how he isn't. Who's going to give him the contract? Again, like a team like the Mariners, we said it before. They have the second best rotation in baseball, maybe the third best behind the Yankees, but one of the best rotations in baseball. And they have a pretty good outfield, and they have a good catcher, and they have a good bullpen, and they have no fucking infield.
I'll read out their players to you on the infield. First base is Luke Raley. I like Luke Raley, but questions. Second base, Dylan Moore. Third base, Donnie Barrels, Donovan Solano. Shortstop, J.P. Crawford, who after having a great year went immediately back to being terrible. So like Mitch Haniger is their DH right now. I mean, there is some serious concerns where they have 3 major league hitters right now in this lineup that you can trust. Four major league hitters that you can trust on a daily basis right now. And Victor Robles, I still think, is very much a wild card.
Yeah, and then also you look at the Pirates lineup where they only have like 3-ish players projected to be a better than league average by WRC Plus, and that's Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz, and Spencer Horwitz, your boy, and I guess Andrew McCutchen. But then it's Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Joey Bart, Nick Gonzalez, Key Brian Hayes, and Joshua Palacios to fill out the rest of that team, with Nick York, Billy Cook, Jason DeLay, and Jared Triolo as the projected opening day bench. It's like I think
Cook?
Like 40 home runs in the middle of that lineup would probably help a shit ton if you guys want to get to the playoffs while you still have Paul Skeens.
Yeah, because whenever he's available to leave, he is out of there, especially with the way that they seem to be spending money. You could smell him later. All right, I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. We got about 30 minutes for you guys on Mets stuff. Thank you so much for listening and watching this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the Mets Stuff Podcast YouTube channel. Drop a like on the video. It really does help us. If you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. You can follow us on all our social media at Mets'd Up, and you can follow James on Twitter at
James_Shiano.
Draftneck Mark with a C. Thank you guys for listening and watching. James was the last episode for the next month here on the stateside. We'll be getting some chaos ones coming at you. We recorded a bunch of content ahead of time as well. So hopefully you guys like some of the fun stuff that we're trying out here over the next month. And we'll catch you later this week for another episode. Peace out.
Peace out, guys. Let's go Mets. OH.
IO.